This is the world's fastest growing and most severe refugee crisis. Over 600,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled Myanmar's Rakhine state since August the 25th, 2017, seeking refuge on a small strip of land along the Bangladesh border. This is the legacy of the amalgamation of colonialism and the use of political power, resulting in fragile and highly sensitive conflicts between nationalities and religions. Struggling to survive day by day in the overcrowded and oppressive refugee camp, there's an additional layer of hardship for another marginalized group. The most disadvantaged, who are at the bottom of the social hierarchy here, are women. The interior of the plastic tent on a bamboo frame was scorching under the blazing sun, filled with intense heat. On the day when the infamous rain and cyclone of Bengal Bay swept through, it's difficult to imagine how this tent could have protected the people inside. Camilla, a 21-year-old, had a bewildered look on her face. Her weary eyes beneath the pink veil reflect sadness. She came to the makeshift camp after her village in Myanmar's Rakhine state came under attack. Kalima made the decision to pick up her 2.5-year-old child and run away from home. The shrapnel that grazed her neck, causing bleeding, was not as painful as the bullet that passed through her child's body and penetrated her right arm as she was cradling the child. The mother and child lay submerged in a pond, evading gunfire for almost 4 hours. When the thirsty child whimpered, the mother scooped water from the pond and carefully dripped it into the child's mouth, little by little. At this moment, Kutupalong is the largest refugee camp in the world, with almost 600,000 people packed tightly together. Given its size, reaching anywhere in the camp is not an easy task. It takes a full day of driving to cover the distance. Even short distances become problematic when the weather is unfavourable. Just light rainfall can transform the pathways into muddy and slippery terrain, posing a significant challenge to mobility. Our journey involves travelling up and down hills, alternating with crossing bamboo bridges over canals. After nearly 2 hours, we arrived at our destination. Underneath her cover, this young woman shared her story with us. She came from a village in the Maungdaw township of Rakhine state in Myanmar. Life there followed a certain pattern. Despite numerous restrictions on her rights, she still had a home and a family, which were sufficient for this Rohingya Muslim woman. 3 months ago, however, her husband was taken away by the military, and her story begins there. One sunny day in September, 3 Burmese soldiers stormed into her house. One of them pointed a gun at her before raping her.
Gotta ayedde dikiyor arada zabilla da bella boli gotti hoşalin nilli nilli de şamat manjay hajja tinjana sharmatun ta de ajane vari ar mani tara tinjana ta mada bondai dori bade dujan dorama teriye azan bitara goliyor re gujite era gujidere guzuri mani tona guzuri ke guzuri ar goli metto jaye Gulimetto sayara no mare edromare guri ridi felaye edera.
After the soldiers left, she rummaged through the remains of her destroyed home, salvaging a few intact plates, bowls and spoons, along with some remaining rice. She embarked on a journey with her 5 children to cross the border, a 2-week-long endeavour. During the arduous trek, they had to survive on leaves and rainwater. Rakhine State, formerly known as Arakan, is one of the 14 states in Myanmar and is considered the most impoverished, located along the western border of the country. It is home to a significant population of Rohingya people, an ethnic Muslim minority. Historians have varying perspectives on the origins of the Rohingya people. The generally accepted truth, however, is that the Rohingya have been present in Myanmar for at least 100 years, dating back to the colonial era when the British incorporated Myanmar as part of British India. During that time, a large number of Indian migrants settled in Myanmar, leading to tensions, particularly in Arakan. During World War II, England formed armed forces to support the Rohingya people in their resistance against the Japanese army. Meanwhile, the Burmese army allied with Japan, with the aim of gaining independence from England. The assistance the Rohingya provided to England made some Burmese people feel that they had a role in obstructing their push for independence. Myanmar was granted independence in 1947 with a significant degree of self-governance. Subsequently, various minority groups, which had previously engaged in armed conflicts with each other, came together, agreed to negotiate, and work towards establishing a new unified nation. It is not evident, however, that anyone residing in Rakhine State participated in the negotiations. Some historians suggest that this may be because Rakhine was already considered part of Myanmar. The Panglong Agreement, which it was hoped would bring unity and create a new nation for Myanmar, collapsed after General Aung San, who advocated for independence, was assassinated. Myanmar entered a period of darkness, as did the Rohingyas' faith. The civil war in Bangladesh in 1971 resulted in a large number of Muslims fleeing to Rakhine State, leading to a rise in anti-Muslim sentiment. The military junta government, led by General Ne Win, who seized power in a coup in 1962, fueled an extreme nationalist movement, using Buddhism as its focal point. The conflicts between Buddhists and Muslims in Rakhine State, which have historical roots in the colonial period, escalated. The state, formerly known as Arakan, was renamed Rakhine. In 1982, a new citizenship law was enacted, categorizing Rohingya people as Bengali immigrants rather than Myanmar citizens. This law effectively stripped Rohingya children born after its implementation of their right to Myanmar citizenship. Despite the past being filled with segregation, discrimination and persecution, the Rohingya in general maintained their status as Myanmar citizens and were able to live, study and earn a living. The loss of citizenship status, however, prevented Rohingya from accessing education or employment within the state system, limited their freedom of movement, and subjected them to a difficult and uncertain future. Another turning point that determined the fate of the Rohingya occurred in 2012, when a Buddhist woman in Rakhine state was sexually assaulted and a Rohingya man became the prime suspect. This incident led to a series of violent clashes between Buddhists and Muslim Rohingya, resulting in killings and the burning of homes. Following these events, the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, or ARSA, a self-proclaimed armed group, emerged. On August the 25th, 2017, ARSA members launched attacks on Myanmar police outposts, triggering a violent response that led to nearly 100 deaths. The Myanmar military deployed troops to carry out clearance operations, targeting not only ARSA members, but also the entire Rohingya population of Rakhine state. Village after village was razed, and this devastation eventually reached Kalimar's home. After being shot while hiding in a pond, Kalimar and her child endured with their injuries for 4 hours before seeking help, after the military withdrew from the village health centre. Sadly, her son was no longer alive.
Ayore powa ikyan ngoyore ikyan holde dita hwani alo gayna ayore nghonar powa batari gir loyede lo yar go chondo diora shite go yar shiru tasa se lamayore ati egor family gor butore zar chondo wayo mojede chondo wazar foy bongede hetara ro hori sangore ara ma hwara horo sangore modo tinwa ko to gojige yanto lo jera tini janaro dot goyore hara tarani ore toliore manchatu go hombal mailide hombal tinu made tini janar muruda tinu adiore hombal wa berayore tini janare kobro garayore.
The next morning, more tragic news arrived. Kalimar's husband had been shot dead in their village that very night.
Mojede hobar faya hono to etigede to eta dayre dikkeral bay horo to etigede oje war ba horo to eta dayre dikkeral mara to dikkelo je bolla ani bolla ede dohongori bolla do de bo mori gede derhi bala rangar ba chulle yore bable tini jon zaybar shomoy zate fara hata soyede fara hata soyore gede shoparangoli no maradar pura gorom made fus dor beri boyta ki guli far gore zana
Kalimar, bereaved of her child and husband, made the decision to embark on a long journey that lasted 16 days. Suffering gunshot wounds, she walked through fields, forests, and crossed the Napa River, which serves as the border between Myanmar and Bangladesh. Eventually, she arrived at this refugee camp. The influx of refugees, starting with thousands and rapidly growing to hundreds of thousands, occurred within a span of under 2 months. Indeed, the situation turned into the tragic portrayal of human suffering that we witness today.
Quanta balla bolu hoyo do moragilige her tale de mari galabo jana na re go jar jana munda kada mari galabo bekkunga dilo no ayer ke mari ayer ke hindila dyan la ayer her bekkun dilo le dyan.
Among the new influx of almost 600,000 refugees, more than half are women. In a society where women's social standing is restricted to their familial roles as daughters and later as wives, they find themselves on the lowest rung of the ladder and face constrained options in life. Their right to shape their own lives is diminished, particularly in situations like this. As is the life of Jamila, a 15-year-old girl. 15 is an age when she should be attending school with her friends, but being born into a Rohingya family and living in the confines of a refugee camp, she is required to navigate through different circumstances. Just 2 weeks ago, Jamila was forced to marry a neighbouring boy of the same age, and she remains confused about this marriage, which was arranged simply because the boy's mother needed someone to help with the household chores. Every day, Jamila's routine involves fetching water from the makeshift well in the camp and bringing it to the household where her husband's family resides. She does this to ensure that everyone in the household, including her husband, has access to water. After that, she proceeds to prepare meals and take care of family members. Jamila is unable to leave the confines of the house without the permission of her parents-in-law. Jamila shared with us before parting ways that her primary role is to be a good wife and to respect and obey her husband. This is considered the appropriate path for women like her in Rohingya society.
If you want to see more great content from all over the world, please like the video, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you.
From the accounts of survivors and considering the number of people who have fled the area, almost 600,000 individuals, it's widely believed that the military's campaign against the Rohingya was indiscriminate, meaning that it targeted not only men and women, but also young people, the elderly, and children. The narratives indicate that the Myanmar military forcefully entered Rohingya villages, killing, committing acts of violence, looting, burning, and the destruction of homes. While the social hierarchy in Myanmar may not be as explicitly defined as the caste system in India, there is a stratification based on ethnicity and religion perpetuated by the military junta. The Buddhists of Myanmar are placed at the top of the hierarchy, followed by other religious groups. The Rohingya Muslims in particular are on the lowest rung, and beneath them are Rohingya Muslim women. In the cases of victims of sexual violence, they are often stigmatized and considered shameful within society.
तो यहाँ ना अल्लाह हुकुम बाफों ने कहना आरा हो दिन वारीर हिंदला तमाद भोरी गिलाम बोए आरा डाकर फरार कदा आरा फराना आरा डाकर फरार कदा मदे क्वारे हिंदला रेप गरम मदे मायोगा मारा गए.
Ethnic tensions are not new in a diverse country like Myanmar, which is populated by various ethnic groups. The intersection of ethnicity and religion, however, adds a complex and sensitive dimension to the Rohingya crisis. Amidst the hatred and persecution, millions of Rohingya lives are at stake, and they're being forced to flee for their lives. Of the hardships faced by the displaced population, women face additional layers of difficulty. Even in matters as basic as accessing toilets, many women in the camps have told us that they are willing to forego food and water just to minimize their trips to the bathroom. These struggles extend to major life decisions for their own future.
তো ইয়ারে ভলেন্টিয়ারি করে রিক্সা করে কেকে যাই পাইতাম সুন্দর করে ওরা হাই লই ওরা পাইতাম ইয়া থেকে শুয়ে না পারে জামাই দি ফাইলে হার দিনে ফাইলে না হার ন দেখুন না হাই দেখেন করে নিলে আরে তো পয়সা ধরে ফান্না ফরাই পাইতাম সুন্দর করে ওরা সরি করে রাখা পাইতাম এখন কেন করে বানিয়ে মেড়া ফরে তোমাদের রাঁধা বাড়ালে হরিয়ে না পারে রাঁধা বাড়া গড়া পরে পানি আনি দেওয়া পরে মরিচ বাড়ি দেওয়া পরে বা চালান আনি দেওয়া পরে অত মাদে না পারে আর কি কইছো
Rohingya women dedicate themselves solely to their families. The duty of a virtuous woman, in their view, is to take care of their husbands and other family members, as well as to take responsibility for raising their children. The death of both the child and the husband thus signifies that there's nothing left in this life for Kalima.
দুনিয়ার কথা বগুন হয়ে মর গুলি আয়ের মর ভাই মল্লাতা মর মতে না তারা তুমি এড়ে জানা আসনি মতে পড়ে জানি মি মরে যাই তুমি এজন ওরা নেজন তো করানো হতো দিনা মাদানি কেনি করে পড়ি তোরে হায়ের গুনজালে আতকা কালা তালে আয়ের সিনা ওরে জটকে মারে মা ও কই মন লাগে মুতে তো মাঝে বই গুমানা তো সুন্দর করে মতে না তারা যায়
In cases of sexual assault, their options become even more limited and obscured. Engaging in sexual relations with men outside of marriage, even if coerced or forced, is considered shameful and wrong. Women who face such a fate are unable to confide in anyone. Societal norms and constraints prohibit them from expressing any emotions or feelings openly.
শরমালাইনো সুবিধে বোধে আনালাইনো শরম দিব মানি দিলা বাসে আল্লাহ বলি যেন হজন আছে তো নিজ দিশে হন আমার জ্বালা আমার হদাত গলা দি বিস্কাই করে হরণ নিয়ে তেমন তো মন হলে মন হ্যাঁ কে গরি ফারিনি হুজেন আছে হুজেন চাইলে দুনিয়ার মধ্যে আল্লাহর ওরে ধ্যান দি বুঝদি আল্লাহর বিচার দিয়ে গরি ওরে
She can only keep the pain and anguish to herself. These are just a few women with whom we've had the opportunity to speak. There are still hundreds of thousands of others in the camp who are enduring unimaginable hardships since their arrival in the refugee camp. What have they encountered? No one knows. No one hears. Rohingya have become a stateless and landless people, unwanted by the world. Millions have fled their homes, risking their lives. Some have sought refuge in neighbouring countries, while others remain in refugee camps like this. Their voices plead for compassion, for the world to acknowledge their plight. Amidst the murmurs, there is a faint cry of women, the voice of unheeded pain that no one hears.